Rev up your engines!
Well, the United States regulators are now investigating whether 1.4 million Honda engines might fail. That's a lot of cars. Now, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is checking out 2016 to 2020 Honda Pilots and Acura MDX, and 2018 to 20 Honda Odysseys and Acura TLXs, and also the 2017 to 2019 Honda Ridgeline. Says connecting rod bearings can fail on the 3.5-liter V6 engines, and I've seen this happen with customers' cars. Now, Honda recalled over 250,000 cars in November 2023 to fix the same problem. Now they're extending it to other cars that have the same engines. Of course, it's an engine, right? Doesn't matter what vehicle's in, it's the same engine. As one of your viewers said, Scotty, I got a 2018 Odyssey. My bearings are gone, the engine's shot. The Honda dealer says I gotta buy another engine for a whole bunch of money. What can I do? Well, you know what you can do? You can join the class action suits that people are starting for this. Honda's quality has been going down for quite some time. If you notice lately, the Toyota quality's been going down too, but Honda's in a worse position. They've been going down for quite some time. And if they gotta replace all those engines, whew, we're not talking Toyota that's replacing 100,000 engines in the Tundras, the V6s. We're talking about 1.5 million vehicles that might have to have their engine replaced. That would bankrupt Honda. I mean, they're never going to replace them all. You know, they have to make some kind of a cracky deal with whatever's going on with the politicians and the corporations. But yeah, it's a big deal for Honda. It just shows their quality has been going downhill. It just has. Honda used to make the best engines in the world. They make more engines than anybody. Between their gasoline and diesel engines that they make worldwide, they make like 3.5 million engines a year. So they make a lot of engines. Well, guess what? They're starting to screw up. It's kind of obvious. If you've got one of these, hey, you look into it. You complain to the NHTSA. More people complain, then they have to have a recall because all these people saw there's a problem, and if they recall it, then they got to fix those engines for free. That's how it works. So if you got one, you got engine problems, complain. Eventually, there's a recall if enough people complain with enough engines blowing up. Here's an interesting one. GM is now trying to sell Chinese-spec Chevy Tahoes and GMC Yukons in China with the first combination of engine and transmission that they never sold in the United States. They are going to have the turbocharged 2.7-liter four-cylinder engine with the 10-speed automatic transmission, which they never sold together in the United States. Interesting enough, they're making these in Arlington and Texas, and they're going to ship them to China. Good luck selling them to the Chinese. They're buying their own stuff now. Making something here and then taking it to China, I doubt if they're going to sell that many of them. One, the price is going to be too high. And of course, GM makes a bunch of vehicles inside. Like if you buy a modern Buick SUV, they're made in China, shipped to the United States, sold to GMs, but they're 100% Chinese-made vehicles. In this case, it's 100% American-made vehicles sent into China. I can't see it as flying all that well. They're pretty much gas hogs. The Chinese go for better gas mileage. Gasoline isn't that cheap in China. And I can't. They're trying, I guess, anything to sell stuff. Hey, that 10-speed automatic transmissions, they've had problems with those things. Maybe they're trying out. Maybe they're trying to get even with China, sending them crappy transmissions. Who knows? I doubt if they're going to sell that many. Let's check on the figures. They're just doing it now. At the end of 2025, let's see how many of these they sold Chevy Tahoes and GMC Yukons that they actually sell in China at the end of 2025, if they even release the figures to us in the United States. They might be so bad they'll just hush it up and won't tell anybody. Well, be wary what you post on Facebook. There was a man who supposedly wrote a hot check to buy an F-250. He put a Facebook bounty post, he replied to it, and then he got caught. Now, allegedly, this guy used a fake check to buy a $50,000 Ford F-250. That's actually a cheap F-250. The dealer said that this 36-year-old Ryan posted on Facebook asking followers to be on the lookout for his pickup truck. And then he replied to the comments himself. So the police went and caught him, and he's already wanted for stealing from a Lowe's. This is like those moronic people that put a video on showing that they're going 180 miles an hour, and then they wonder why they've been arrested. He tried to pretend that he was looking for the truck, right, with his Facebook post. The dealership asked the followers on Facebook to help find the vehicle, but don't engage with Duval because, they said in quotes, he's not a good guy. And the dealership showed that he had prior arrests for stealing things. Now, Duval allegedly skipped town with a truck, but he still kept commenting on the Facebook posts. One commenter wrote that they thought they saw Duval at an AutoZone buying Realtree floor mats. And he commented saying, no, I bought WeatherTech. And then hilariously enough, I gotta say, they got a sense of humor. After he was arrested, the dealership made a video that mocked him, having someone dressed in an old school black and white prisoner's outfit, driving a stolen truck and getting arrested for using a comically large check. Now the Ford dealer in Nashville, they got class. They offered a $1,000 reward to help track him down, and they gave $1,000 to one of the commenters who helped track him down, and they also gave $1,000 to the Nashville Police Department. So, hey, it ended up good. So, if you're going to do bad things like that, my idea is don't do it in the first place. But if you do, don't comment about it on Facebook over and over again, making it easier for them to catch you. Look, he's been at the AutoZone. Where is he now? Well, Honda, the motorcycle company, not the car company, says that they're readying their first electric motorcycle for the masses. It's called the EV Fun. But I've seen electric motorcycles are massive failures. It's no surprise that Honda's coming in late. They said next year maybe they'll start selling these things. Now, to me, Honda's a good company. They make great motorcycles. They always had. That's how they made a fortune, you know. You meet the nicest people on Honda. That was their first big sales scheme that they had, because back in the day, everybody's Harley Davidson, Hell's Angels on Harley Davidson. But in Hondas, you meet the nicest people. It was the whole thing. They were selling to people in suburbia, little motorcycles, right? Then they started making fast screamers. Wow. I think they're making a mistake making electric motorcycles. Listen to this. It has a 62-mile range. 62 miles. And that's what they say. You know it's going to be less, because they always do regenerative braking in town. I have seen ones that said they had a 140-mile range in town. And then I took one, this was a zero motorcycle, on the highway. The thing lasted like 40 minutes on the highway. Granted, I was going 75, but still. And this one says it has a 62-mile range, so it's not going to be far on the highway, right? And it's cool looking. It looks like a racing motorcycle, la, la, la. But hopefully Honda won't be stupid and try to sell millions of these things, because they never will in the United States. Now, Honda's a worldwide company, so maybe they'll sell a bunch of them in China, Japan, where they don't care, because 60 miles to them is like, oh, that's okay. I don't drive all that far anyways. I've had people buy used Japanese cars that were 20 years old, and they only had like 15,000 miles on them. They don't drive that much in Japan. So maybe it would fly there. But in the United States, an electric motorcycle with a range of 62 miles. I've got electric bicycles that have that kind of range. That sounds to me like a stupid idea. Well, if you're planning on taking a cruise, a vacation land, you might think twice before you board the Regal Princess. Okay, the Regal Princess is stuck in Galveston, Texas. I don't know that, right? And it's been stuck there for quite some time. They just canceled their third straight voyage. And they never tell you. This one poor guy, he emails him. He says, I got a cancellation 24 hours before I'm getting on a boat. Great, you ruined my vacation. You know, people set up their vacation times, right? Your work schedule and everything, and then boom, third straight time in a row, they've canceled it. Now, this is what amazes me about cruise ships. You think your car's made bad. These cruise ships are made like crap. This is the Regal Princess. And listen to this. The Regal Princess was launched in 2014. Launched in 2014. The Regal Princess was refurbished in 2017. Okay, you buy it 3 years later, it's got to be refurbished. Could you imagine if you bought a car and 3 years later you had to get it refurbished? Now you're going to be really peed off, right? These cruise ships have a very limited lifespan. They don't last all that long. But I mean, 3 years. So it was refurbished in 2017. Now what? It's 7 years later, and 3 times in a row, they had fires, I guess, in their engine compartments. And 3 times in a row, they said, we're going to sail, and they didn't. So they screw everybody over who wanted to have a vacation. Do a little research with the cruise company you're using and the ship that you're boarding, especially the ship. Because we rode on one of those once. We got really good price. We went to Mexico to see all the Mayan buildings and stuff, right? It was interesting. We got a nice penthouse, and it was dirt cheap. You know why? Because on the previous cruise, somebody died. They don't know if they were murdered or they jumped off the ship, right? And they couldn't sell the tickets. We had bought cheaper tickets. They were just an outside one with a little bitty deck that you could look out the water, right? I can't stand being in the middle. You get claustrophobic. They call me up and they say, would you like to upgrade to the penthouse? And I'm like, no, I looked at your prices. I'm not spending another $1,800. I don't think it's worth it, right? And they said, well, what do you think it's worth? I said, well, give me an offer. Well, for $400, you can upgrade to the penthouse one. So we did, and it was phenomenal. Lots of room in a waiting room, 2 bathrooms. It was great, right? And they sold our tickets to somebody else because they could sell the lower price tickets, but not the higher price ones. And I noticed when I went to the ship, there were areas that had been closed off that obviously had had a fire, and other people talked about, well, there had been a fire. And interestingly enough, I paid extra to go on the under the boat tour where you get to see all the electronics and the motors and everything. My wife didn't want to go. She's bored by that. But I went. And I noticed when I looked up, I'm like, they've got bare wiring going through. That's against the law for maritime. All the wiring is supposed to be sealed in conduits. And they had a bunch of it that wasn't sealed in the area that they had a fire, and they did a half-assed way fixing it. So be very leery who you float down the ocean in a cruise ship. Do a little research before you hop on a boat. It might be a clunker, like this one stuck in Galveston. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.